Hello everybody, and welcome to Jurassic Park. Welcome to the M.O.C Spotlight, where we take apart what you build. And for today's episode, in celebration of the release of Jurassic World, because a lot of us have been waiting on Jurassic Park 4 for like the longest time, today we're going to be reviewing a Tyrannosaurus Rex M.O.C created by darkenski and uploaded and found on brickshelf. Now before we take a closer look at this behemoth, let's go over my method of reviewing, which involves a point system that is based on three fundamental attributes: the overall appearance of the M.O.C, the build of the M.O.C itself, and the concepts and ideas behind the M.O.C's creation. Each quality will mount up to 5 points each for a final score that will be determined at the end of the episode. And remember, this is all my opinion, so let's get dino rockin'. So I want to kick this off by saying that, man, I am really impressed that this M.O.C actually looks like a Tyrannosaurus, at least how it's been portrayed in various forms of media such as Jurassic Park, the most notable example out there right now. It's got the big head, the long, thin legs, and long tail, and the tiny, useless arms. The shape of the T-Rex is definitely in there. However, I will say that first glance I can already see some flaws. The main thing being that this M.O.C appears very gappy. There are many visible holes, such as in the lower jaw and the neck and the legs even, and the tail, mostly in the tail, surprisingly. There are a few in the torso, but they're not as noticeable. They don't jut out as awkwardly. I guess the gappiness is to be expected since this M.O.C is mostly composed of technic parts, and technic builds are typically fairly gappy in their own right. I don't know, but personally a little bit of bulk and some meatiness would probably help make this M.O.C look better. Another thing that I noticed that also kind of bugs me is the toes. As you can see, if you look at these toes, one of them is a Borak tooth, the middle one is a standard socket connector piece, and then the other one is just the stub of a technic piece, just kind of there. And what this looks like to me is that this T-Rex has one claw, one stub, and then one big stub in the middle of each of his feet. So this, coupled with the really gappy look of these legs, I think I'm gonna have to conclude that I don't like these legs. And that says a lot because I usually like the legs of the M.O.Cs that I review. That's usually the first thing that I like. But these ones, while they do have the right shape, they just don't look that great to me. However, moving on to the torso and the head and the tail, all of this looks a lot better, especially the head, which I'm really liking the look of. I do have some nitpicks here as well, and it's that I wish the eyes were a bit more visible because they're just kind of there as like gray parts. Unless you took a closer look, it's pretty hard to tell that this T-Rex has eyes. Also, more teeth would have been nice because this T-Rex kind of has a SpongeBob thing going on right now. Aside from those two quirks, overall, I like the head. We come down a little lower and it gets a little bit humorous. As I mentioned earlier, that this T-Rex has pretty much all the features it needs to be a T-Rex, including the useless arms. Yeah, this T-Rex has some useless arms. I mean, these arms are tiny, very spindly, skinny looking. I mean, I guess they're supposed to look like this. They're supposed to look all tiny and very spindly looking. But I think the bicep part should at least be a bit longer. So then moving on, the torso looks really fine. I really dig the torso. I'm satisfied with how it looks. We go down to the tail, and it's like the torso just kind of starts becoming emptier and emptier the more you follow the tail down to the tip. Here goes the gappiness again. So, all in all, I'm a little half and half so far on the appearance. So let's just move on so I can talk about the build of this M.O.C. And so the build of this M.O.C, I don't have too much of a problem with. This M.O.C is capable of standing up. I'll say that right now. You can see this T-Rex in a bunch of different... Okay, no, not a bunch of different poses, but you can see in a bunch of pictures that this T-Rex is capable of standing up on its own, doesn't need that much support, looks really well balanced, despite the gappiness of these legs. You know, these legs being so gappy, you'd think that they wouldn't be able to support the bulk and weight of the head and the torso, which are probably the most filled out parts of this M.O.C. But somehow it can still stand up. I think what really helps are these spring pieces on there. I think that actually could be what's helping this M.O.C stand up, and if that's the case, then that's genius. That is really well done. I also noticed that taking a closer look at the spine, you can see that there are these long pieces that trail from the head all the way down to the tip of the tail. I think that's supposed to be what's helping this M.O.C keep its structure and its balance from head to tail, kinda like what a real spine is supposed to do. So it's really impressive to see how it's utilized here, and it also helps the M.O.C keep its shape, the correct shape it needs to be a T-Rex, which is another praise I have for the build as well. The dude actually managed to build something that looks like a T-Rex out of basically nothing but technic parts. I mean, there's a few bionicle parts in there to fill up some spaces like in the upper legs, which I really appreciate, and I kind of wish there was a bit more of that in other parts, such as the lower legs, and maybe even the neck, and the lower jaw, and the tail, you know, all those other gappy parts. Overall, I gotta say, the build of this M.O.C looks really solid, and I can't see any flaws unless this M.O.C is just incapable of posing in any other way than just kind of standing there. But I really doubt that. I think those springs have me convinced. So let's move on so I can talk about the concepts. So the big idea behind this M.O.C is what? You guessed it. It's supposed to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex. You know, the king, the most famous dinosaur known to man, the thing that made Jurassic Park Jurassic Park. If you watched A Land Before Time, they were called sharp teeth. They're everywhere. When you think of a dinosaur, you instantly might think of a T-Rex, unless you're like some sort of paleo nerd and you just instantly think of Diplodocus or Deinonychus or Mosasaurus or some other crap. But no, this is all about the T-Rex, and as I stated earlier, this M.O.C really has it down. This M.O.C knows what it's supposed to be. The builder knew what he was trying to build, and I'd say he executed it fairly okay. See, it kind of depends. I'm not sure if the builder was trying to make a full-fledged T-Rex model, or if he was trying to make a skeleton. The gappiness of this M.O.C and the whole structure being so skeletal-like, as you can see in the torso, it looks a little bit like a rib cage, at least to me. And also the spine construction and the legs being so gappy. It kind of suggests that this M.O.C might be a skeleton, but with the thickness of the thigh parts and the head and the torso itself appears pretty thick. It also looks like it is trying to be just a full fleshed out Tyrannosaurus model. I'm really not too sure, but either way, it's definitely no failure at representing a T-Rex. There's even the minifigure of Harrison Ford to show you that this M.O.C is supposed to be to scale. If anything, it actually might be a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be. But in the end, I'll be honest, it's probably one of the best T-Rex M.O.Cs I've seen, in that it looks the most like a T-Rex out of any M.O.C I've seen. And with that said, let's move on to the final scores. So in terms of appearance, this M.O.C receives a 3.5 out of 5. Yup, it's a T-Rex, but yep, it has flaws. Flaws that I actually really don't like, and I think could have been changed up to make this M.O.C look better. However, in terms of the build, this M.O.C receives a 4 out of 5. I'm overall really impressed with the build of this M.O.C. It looks really well structured and stable, but the range of posability that this M.O.C has seems a bit questionable. Seems to be a bit stiff. And then finally, the concepts and ideas behind this M.O.C receive a 4 out of 5. As I said earlier, this is the best M.O.C I've seen that's attempting to look like a T-Rex, because it does that job the best out of any other so-called T-Rex M.O.C that I've seen. Then again, I haven't really seen that many T-Rex M.O.Cs. I mean, I've tried. I really did try, and I did see a bunch, and this is definitely one of the better ones. It does a really good job of looking like a T-Rex. However, I'm still unsure as to what kind of T-Rex it's supposed to be. Is it supposed to be a skeleton, or is it supposed to be an actual T-Rex? Or is it both? I don't know. But let's just get to the final score before I hurt myself thinking about it too hard. So final score, ouch. This M.O.C receives an 11.5 out of 15. This M.O.C isn't bad at all. again, it is really one of the best T-Rex mocks I've seen. If not that, the best T-Rex mock I've seen. But most of my complaints do fall under the appearance of this mock, and to be fairly honest, maybe I'm just being picky because I loves my dinosaurs, and if I'm looking for a T-Rex, it needs to be the, okay, maybe not perfect, but a really good looking T-Rex. But again, don't get me wrong, looking at this mock was really nice, and I do hope to see a bit more out of this guy, darkenski. I hope you're still active so I could see more out of you. And for you viewers, if you have a creation that you want to be on the mock spotlight, you should post it on our message boards located at board.ttvpodcast.com. You'll get a higher possibility that I'll stumble into it. I'll probably take a look at it and say, hey, that should be on the mock spotlight. And then who knows, maybe in the future you will see it on the mock spotlight. But first, you need to post it there because I look at the boards almost all the time, as frequently as I can. Thank you all for watching. Have a good time watching Jurassic World if you plan on it. And I'll see you all next time.